The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, mingling with the faint hum of a jukebox that hadn't changed its tune in decades. The morning light poured through the wide diner windows, dancing across chrome edges and yellow vinyl booths. Everything looked perfect, clean, peaceful, ordinary. But behind the counter, Ava's hands trembled as she poured coffee into a glass pot. Her reflection in the polished steel seemed calm, but her heart was a battlefield of fear. Because outside those spotless windows, she knew they were still there. The same three men. The same eyes that had followed her for weeks. If you believe that kindness still has the power to change a person's story, to bring light into someone's darkest moment, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Every act of kindness helps stories like this one reach another heart that might need it most. Ava had been working at Harper's Diner for 6 months. To most people, it was just a retro 1950s-style diner, bright colors, checkered floors, and happy music. But to her, it was a place of escape. She had run here after leaving a town where fear had lived in her shadow. She thought she'd outrun it. Until the day those men walked in again. 3 of them. Leather jackets. Tattoos that told the world they didn't fear consequences. At first, she told herself it was coincidence, maybe they were just passing through. But they kept coming. Same booth, same stares, same smirks that made her skin crawl. She started coming early and leaving late, hoping to avoid them. She tried taking the back road home, hiding behind smiles while serving pie and refilling coffee cups. But fear, once it takes root, doesn't stay quiet. It eats away at every second of peace. That morning, when they came in again and sat down, laughing under their breath, she knew she couldn't take it anymore. She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. Then she saw them, a group of 4 bikers in black leather, their vests bearing the name RLLS Angels. They weren't smiling. They looked calm, but there was something in their presence, a quiet weight that filled the room like thunder waiting to strike. The leader, a broad-shouldered man with a thick salt and pepper beard and arms covered in tattoos, sat in the booth closest to the window. His name tag read Maddox. He didn't talk much. Just nodded when she asked for their order. She tried to steady her hands as she poured his coffee, but he noticed her shaking. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She nodded, but the lie broke inside her before the word even formed. Moments later, when she leaned closer to refill his cup, her voice trembled. She cupped her hand near his ear, her breath catching between words, and whispered, "They won't stop following me." Maddox's eyes didn't move right away. He didn't need to ask who. The reflection in the diner window said enough. 3 men in the back booth, pretending to laugh, their eyes locked on her every move. He turned his gaze back to his coffee, his expression unreadable, but something cold flickered behind his eyes. The rest of the crew stopped talking. Diesel, a bald, heavy-set man with sunglasses resting on his head, leaned slightly forward. Reed, the youngest with a red bandana, set down his cup. None of them needed words, they'd seen enough in their lives to recognize danger when it walked in wearing smirks. Ava swallowed hard, her voice barely audible. "They've been coming here for weeks, waiting outside after closing. I told the owner. He said maybe they're just customers. But I know they're not." Her eyes filled with tears she couldn't hold back anymore. "I don't know what to do anymore." Maddox's jaw tightened. He didn't promise her anything. He didn't need to. The promise was in his silence. The diner's air changed. The laughter from the back table grew quieter. Maddox finally looked up. Slowly. Calmly. His eyes met the men's in the reflection. He turned his cup around once, the sound of ceramic scraping the table louder than it should have been. Then he stood up. His crew followed, the legs of the booth creaking against the floor. The thugs straightened in their seats, trying to look unfazed, but their confidence cracked the moment Maddox began walking toward them. He wasn't rushing. Just moving with that terrifying calm that only men who've seen the worst of life carry. The sunlight hit his vest, the patches, the scars, the weight of stories untold. He stopped by their table. The diner went silent. Even the jukebox seemed to pause. No one knew what he said. He leaned down slightly, spoke in a low tone that didn't carry beyond that booth. But whatever he said, it drained the color from their faces. The laughter died completely. Within moments, the three men stood up, avoided his eyes, dropped a few crumpled bills on the table, and walked out into the blinding daylight. Maddox watched them go until the door shut behind them. Ava stood frozen by the counter, the coffee pot trembling in her hand. When he finally turned back toward her, she expected anger or judgment, but instead, there was something softer in his expression. Understanding. Pain. Maybe even a memory. He walked back to his booth, picked up his jacket, and before leaving, placed a folded napkin on the counter. On it was written a simple message: "You're safe now. They won't be back." When the rumble of their motorcycles faded outside, the diner stayed quiet for a long time. Ava pressed the napkin to her chest, tears running freely now, not from fear, but relief. The kind of relief that feels like air after drowning. She looked around at the peaceful diner, sunlight still pouring in, the same chrome, the same yellow booths, but something in her world had shifted forever. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't alone. From that day on, those men never returned. But every morning, the roar of motorcycles would echo briefly down the street before fading away, as if someone was still keeping watch, just to be sure. If this story touched your heart, if you believe kindness still exists in unexpected places, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Because sometimes, it takes a stranger's courage to remind the world that goodness still rides quietly among us. Before the ending, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Ava's place that day?